Hello. So, does finding things to talk about when it comes to creating your content, does that feel like the most difficult part? Hi, Octavia. Often when I am talking to clients, in fact, I just did a poll on Instagram last week asking this, but often when I'm talking to clients or students or asking people on Instagram what the most time consuming part of creating content is, or what the biggest hurdle for creating content is, it is overwhelmingly either one of two things. One being that just creating the content itself takes a lot of time, or two, that coming up with what to say takes a lot of time. And I'm not sure if it truly takes a lot of time or if it just takes a lot of mental energy. But either way, today I'm here to share 7 places that you can find content inspiration so that that can take a little less time for you moving forward. For those that haven't met me yet, I'm Amanda Warfield. I am a simplicity focused content marketing strategist and copywriter. And I go live here on YouTube every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to help course creators simplify their marketing strategy so that they can make a bigger impact in less time. I would love to know, is coming up with ideas for what to say difficult for you? Or are you someone who falls more in the creating content just takes a lot of time? Which of those two really common reasons for content creation taking so much time, which of those two do you fall under? Or do you have a totally different reason? If so, I'd love to hear that too in the comments. So while I wait for those to roll in, let me tell you a little bit about how I came to make this easier for myself, because this is what I used to struggle with. Creating the content took a lot of time, but I tended to really struggle with the idea of what do I talk about? Because there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to marketing. I mean, I literally wrote a book on it and I feel like I barely scratched the surface of what I could talk about it. And so, something that really, really helped me is something that we're going to talk about today, but having a content bank in place, which mine is currently in Trello. I'm playing around with moving it around, but having that content bank in place where I can just pop down all of my ideas and categorize them has made it so much easier for me to determine what it is that I'm going to talk about at any given time. And it gives me tons of ideas because I'm not always, trying to come up with something off the fly. I'm able to sit down and go, oh, I have all of these ideas. What is my strategy? What's my focus? Okay, where's this category for this focus? Cool. What do I want to talk about? And so that has made it so much simpler for me. But that's not really a place to find content inspiration. So we're going to talk about 7 different ways that you can actually find content idea inspiration and then put it into your content bank to make it easier when it comes time to have your own batch week and to sit down and create your content. So, the first place that you can find content inspiration is so simple. And I've already talked about it, I've already mentioned it in this video actually. And it's asking on Instagram stories. Instagram stories are a great place for connecting and building relationships with your audience, right? Like that is the highest priority, is engaging with your audience on Instagram. That's what you should be doing in your stories. That is what it's made for. It is the best thing that you can utilize your stories for, is that engagement. But it also is really great for getting feedback and doing some market research. So I love to use Instagram stories for market research. I do it all the time. But when it comes to determining what to talk about, it's really easy to just go on there, and you can do this in one of two ways. You can say, you can put up a question box and you can say, what do you want to hear from me? I will say, unless you have a large audience, you're probably not going to get a ton of responses, just because that's a really hard question to answer. And it's hard because it makes someone sit there and think, which isn't our natural reaction when we are on social media and we're scrolling. We don't have to think, right? Instead, we want to be able to help if we can, but we want to do it without having to think. So you can go on there and just say, I'm creating content. What do you want to hear about? And that might work. You could make that even easier on someone by giving them a specific topic. I'm creating content around this very specific topic. what do you want to hear about? So instead of anything, you could say, I'm creating content about, I'll take Octavia for example. Octavia is a brand and web designer, right? And she focuses on Showit. I'm creating content around Showit features. What do you want to know? And that can make it easier because then my mind automatically goes to, huh, Showit features. Is there a way to do this thing? I've always wondered that, but I've never taken the time to look into it. And I might automatically think, if I'm someone that uses Showit and utilizes this thing that she's talking about, which I am, spoiler, but I'm going to automatically think of situations that I've had questions about Showit. And I don't have to think as much about it. So getting really specific can help. Another way you can do this, though, that would make it even easier is to poll. And so you can use the poll feature and give, 4 or so different options and see which 2 are most exciting and which 2 get the most engagement. And maybe you even end up with people going, "Oh, I also would love something about this." And so it gives you a secondary way to pull ideas that you have and kind of get them ranked, but also people like to put their 2 cents in, again, when it's easy for them to do so, and so you're kind of giving people the mindset and the ability to think of other things in a similar realm that they might wanna tell you. So, that is the simplest way to find some content inspiration, is to go ask your audience what they want. The second way that you can get some really great content inspiration is through SEO keyword research. So, SEO is search engine optimization, and it's essentially what we want to be doing with all of our content on our website, whether you have a blog or a podcast or YouTube. You want to be reusing the podcast and YouTube on your blog itself, and making sure that you're getting SEO keywords used within those transcripts and within the keywords and descriptions, so that you're able to then show up when people search for whatever it is you're talking about, right? So I would be trying to show up for how to find content ideas or something similar, right? And a great way to get ideas of what to talk about is keyword research. And then if you start with the keyword research, you've got that part done for you. You don't have to figure out the idea and then figure out what keywords to use. You're able to start with the keywords and work backwards. I am certainly not an SEO expert, not at all, but I do know answerthepublic.com is a great tool for keyword research, and it gives you what is literally being asked about different topics. And so it'll give you all these different options, and it's in a wheel. That's why I'm doing this circular motion with my hand. Um, and it'll show you what's being asked about certain things, which is a great jumping point for what to talk about, and it gives you the keywords. So, second place to find inspiration would be SEO research. I also like to, similar, but it's not necessarily SEO based. If I have a certain topic in mind, I will literally pop into Google and go to actual Google, like the main Google page, and start typing it. Google will autofill things. I don't know if you've seen like the celebrities that are like pulling off the ridiculous things that are searched about them. Anyways, that kind of idea though. So you start typing in what it is you're talking about, and you can see what's commonly searched or what Google says is commonly searched, and it'll populate these various ideas, and then you're able to take that and run with it with the different ideas that might be in there. So that's a third way, pretty similar to keyword research, but you can do that on Google and you can do that on Pinterest. You can do that in both places, and it gives you the um, just a different way to think about different topics and different twists on it. At some point, you'll have created so much content that you're talking about the same things over and over and over again. And so you've just got to find a way to have new twists on the same thing. And that's a really great way to do that. Now, a fourth way is I like to go into my own content sphere. 4 and 5, I guess, are kind of in within my own content sphere. First thing I'll do is I will look at the most downloaded past episodes or most viewed past YouTube videos or most read blog posts, whatever terminology you want to use for whatever type of long form content you have. But going into most downloaded past episodes, especially for my podcast, or you can do the same thing on your Instagram. What are the things that are most clicked? What are the things that are most interacted with? But looking at past content and seeing what performed really, really well, and then seeing what you can create similar around that. What kind of content you create that branches off of that original piece of content? It's great because you can backlink to it if it is a podcast episode or something within your own website for SEO purposes. But it also then, you start creating more and more content around this one topic, which helps others see you as an expert about that one topic. Okay, so then the fifth way, again, also has to do with your content itself. And that is going in. And what I like to do, again, because we tend to talk about multiple different themes around our content, I will go in and I will make a list of, okay, under this theme, what are all the podcast episodes I have under this theme? And I'll make a different list within Trello for that. So I've got three really broad at this point themes within the content I talk about. We talk about simplifying your content creation, simplifying your marketing strategy, and simplifying your launches. So within those three things, I have three different lists that I continuously add to of what have I talked about launch specifically? What have I talked about content creation specifically? What have I talked about strategy, simplifying your strategy specifically? And then I can go in and I can look at just those specifically themed ones and say, okay, but where do I still have holes? Because we know our stuff so well and we know it so deeply, it's really easy to feel like we've talked about something already that we haven't even covered with our audience. So, by looking at just those specific lists of, okay, what has been talked about, you can say, okay, but what's missing? Where do I have holes that I haven't talked about something important about this topic that maybe I thought I did, but I just glanced over it, or I briefly mentioned it in an episode and didn't do a whole episode dedicated to it or something like that. So looking back at my content and just seeing what I can create similar to what I've already created is a really great way to find content inspiration. Now, the sixth way that you can find content inspiration is, no surprise, ChatGPT, right? Using AI tools is so great. It's such a really easy way to find content ideas. And in fact, when I first created this outline, because this was originally a podcast episode at one point in time, I didn't even have ChatGPT. This was pre-ChatGPT. And so these were all like, okay, what are these practical ways that we can find content and figure out like what to talk about? Now we just go into ChatGPT. So a couple things that I love to ask ChatGPT when I am searching for content ideas for clients, because this is part of what I do for clients, is we create their strategy and then I tell them what to talk about within their content. But I will ask, what are commonly asked questions about XYZ, whatever it is that we're talking about, whatever our theme is and focus for that day, that week, that month, whatever it may be. What are commonly asked questions about that? But I also love to go, what does audience type need to know about this thing? So I'll use a photographer, for example. What do senior parents need to know about senior photography? And so that way it comes up with a list for you of, oh, well, they need to know this, 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 and this. And it'll give you this long list of things. You can turn each one of those into a piece of long form content that is super educational and valuable for your ideal audience, and also covers all your bases for what you need to talk about. And so that's one of my favorite questions. There's one more question I like to ask ChatGPT, and off the top of my head, I cannot think of it. It is, what do I need to know? I should have written this down. Oh, what are common struggles that audience has around XYZ? And so that also, it just gives similar in a different perspective. And it helps you, okay, if this is what they're struggling with, how can I create content to help overcome that struggle? So again, in that same example, you would say, what are common struggles that senior parents have with senior photography? Or if you can go deeper and you know your audience well enough, what are common struggles that senior parents have with, and this is not my ideal audience, obviously, but what do senior parents struggle with during their child's senior year? And maybe that could bring up some stuff. There's definitely a better and more niche way to ask that. But you get the idea. What are common struggles that they have about this thing? Going back to the web designer example earlier, what are common struggles that small business owners have using Showit? What are common struggles that small business owners have creating a cohesive brand? What are common struggles that small business owners have when they DIY their websites, right? So there's all different kinds of ways you can take things you talk about and transform them into these different questions. And ChatGPT can give you a ton of content ideas really easily. And then the final way, my favorite way to get really, really great, really aligned with your audience content inspiration is through an annual survey. So I send out an annual survey every single year. I make all of my clients send out an annual survey every single year. It goes on their marketing calendar every single year because it's so important, because you're getting great ideas. Like ChatGPT can give you a plethora of great ideas, right? But you're getting a plethora of great ideas from your audience, from the people who have said, yes, I'm interested in what you're teaching. I'm interested in learning from you. How do I learn from you? Tell me more. This is so, I cannot tell you enough how great it is of a tool for market research. And with your annual survey, you can not only get great content inspiration ideas, you can get help with your messaging, you can get help with, what kind of offers to create next. There's so many different things you can do with your annual survey to really help your business grow and thrive. And I cannot recommend them enough. Um, I have a podcast episode, I've linked it below, that you can listen to, that I share in this episode my exact my exact content strategy, my exact annual survey strategy for how I do the logistics behind it, how I set it up, how long, dates, all of that. The emails I send, the questions I ask, all of that is inside of that podcast episode. It's episode 212 of the Chasing Simple podcast. And again, it's linked below if you want to check that out. But you can steal my exact annual survey strategy with that episode, because I do like it's such an important marketing tool. But you want to ask things that are going to give you content ideas, and you want to ask things that are going to really help you get to the heart of what it is that your audience is struggling with and needs from you. So asking questions like, what is your biggest struggle around this topic right now? If you could ask me anything about this topic, what would it be? And so those questions, those are exactly like you take those questions and you turn them into full long form content, right? The struggles you can take and you can go, okay, how do I create content to help with this? How do I create offers to help with this? How do I turn this into actual helpful information? Not just here's where I'm stuck and I don't know where to go. It's here's where you're stuck and here's how you get move forward, right? And so that's also super helpful for creating that content. So again, those are the 7 different places that you can find content inspiration. We've got um, keyword research. We've got the quick fill in the blank with Pinterest and Google when you start typing things in. You can ask on your Instagram stories. You can look at your most downloaded episodes, your most viewed videos, your highest visited blog pages, your um, most saved, most commented on Instagram posts, most engaged content, period. You can also look at your content list and where you have holes, where you have not talked about important pieces to how you do what you do, ChatGPT, and then an annual survey. If you have not got an annual survey on your calendar for this year, I highly recommend that you go put one on your calendar right now so that you can make sure you get that out. I actually had a client call today where we were outlining her annual survey for the year. So you don't have to do it in January. You don't have to do it in December. You can do it at any point in the year. And I really recommend that you go get one on the calendar. Now, If you, again, want to steal that annual survey strategy, I recommend checking that out. If you want to make sure that you uh, continue to further simplifying your marketing, I really recommend that you watch my video all about the 3 different ways to simplify your content creation so that you can spend less time marketing and more time moving the needle in your business. If you've got any questions about finding content inspiration, please drop them in the comments. I would love to answer them for you. And if you like this video, please be sure to like it below and hit subscribe if you haven't already.